Good morning, Nishant says Mr. Yogendra Pratap Singh. Good morning, Mr. Singh. How are you doing? How's everything? I hope you can hear me, and I hope you are feeling really good. Let just give me a second. I'll go live on LinkedIn, and then we will begin. So if you can hear me, let me know, and we will begin in a second. Hi, says Mr. Patil. Good morning. How are you doing? How have you been? It's been a long time. How's Uncle? I have been following via good recorded videos. So nice of you. Mr. Kumar says good morning. Good morning, Mr. Kumar. Sorry to keep you waiting. Just a second, and I'll be fine. He's doing well. Thank you. Oh, thank God. Thank God. Cheers to that. And with that out of the way, since Mr. Singh has already said that I'm audible, I'll just take a second to go live on LinkedIn, and then we will begin. Perfect. It's done. Let's begin. That's great to hear. Where's Mr. Tarun been? Does anybody have any clue? It's been a long time since I saw him, right? I wonder how is he doing. He was preparing for his banking exams, right? I don't know how that's going. It'll be nice to hear from him sometime. Yeah. Uh, that's settled. I'm just gonna be live on LinkedIn in a second. Let me just set everything up till then. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Live on LinkedIn as well. So let's begin. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We are working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition. The sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail. And all we need for the simultaneous sip is a cup, a mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like some hot water with black pepper in it. And here we go. Let's do it again. Sublime. Beautiful. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together. Such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. So there's a lot of action happening as far as India and US is considered, right? They're looking to seal gaps in trade talks today. So these are not in continuation of the BTA that is supposed to happen. BTA is a bilateral trade agreement that is on for what it's worth. It's gonna take some time. Mr. Trump has mended his ways. He's toned his pitch. He's moved away from India, focusing on China, focusing on EU's purchases, and so on and so on. So all that is moving in India's favor. Speaking of US, there's something very interesting happening as far as the TikTok deal is considered. We talked about TikTok deal. We've had deep discussions on TikTok deals as far as US is considered. So US, what it wanted to do was it wanted to ban TikTok because it was a security threat, right? It was like India banned TikTok, right? It was a security issue for US as much as it was for India. But banning it had another problem. Banning it essentially killed a very big economic opportunity, right? And banning it also created a systemic risk in the political discourse of the country, that is US. So what happened was, Meta is has always been a very pro-liberal play, right? Well, Mark Zuckerberg isn't a person of ideals, so he doesn't care about an ideology, but he's very left. He's been very left for a very long time. He has funded Democrats in the past, right? And Meta has actively censored right in the past, right? And the other social networking play is owned by Google, which is another extremely left wing company, right? So, uh, what happens is they could have banned TikTok, but TikTok grew its user base to a very, very significant level in US. So much so that it became a serious competition to Meta itself, right? And when that became a serious competition to Meta, it made sense to not ban it altogether, but actually sell it to an American company which was sort of pro right, you can say. Or if not pro right, not totally one side of the spectrum, right? So they wanted to preserve, number one, economic value of TikTok. Number two, they wanted to hedge their communication bets against Meta and Google, which are totally left leaning plays, right? So that's why Mr. Trump didn't want to ban TikTok. He wanted TikTok to sell to a US company so that it could run as an independent operation. All that economic value gets saved, and all that social value can also be saved. So this is akin to what US tried to do or did at least 40 years ago with media companies, right? So they, just to distribute the media messaging, they began having their own people in different media outlets, right? Because some media is totally left wing, some media has to be right wing to counter it, and so on and so forth, right? So this is the new age version of that story, where social media platforms are being managed in a way that if a platform turns rogue, you have something else. So that particularly was was Twitter, was X. X became that platform, right? So when social networking platforms essentially started banning people left and right for speaking against, let's say, vaccines or whatever, right? Uh, a lot of issues. So X became that play where it allowed that speech to thrive, right? Or let's say it didn't block it altogether under misinformation norms. Now, when X grew up as like a town square of ideas, let's say, Blue Sky founded itself on the basis of being a left wing Twitter, left wing X. So this is a very interesting play, but a very geopolitical way. TikTok became an issue of geopolitical relevance because US had two options. One was to ban TikTok, or other was to preserve it and have an American company manage it. That's what Mr. Trump was trying, and that's what China wasn't allowing. And now Trump says that we've come to a deal about a company which a lot of young people are care a lot about. Without naming TikTok, he says we've come to a deal as far as a very important company for the young in America. He's obviously talking about TikTok. But nothing is set in stone, and I think he might just be in for a rude awakening. Or if this deal happens, China will get a lot of things against it because it's such an important play. TikTok essentially decides what America is going to talk about. Can you imagine the importance of that company? TikTok, I'll say it again. TikTok is what decides what America talks about, right? So they've already surpassed Instagram in cultural relevance. Facebook is a dead product, of course, and that could have been the scene as far as India is considered, but India banned TikTok in 2020 after the Galwan clash. Now, when India banned TikTok, a lot of money flew into companies like ShareChat, right? Unfortunately, those companies couldn't really gain any relevance whatsoever. So billions of dollars went into share chat and companies like that. Nothing could happen. And you know India just shifted to Instagram. So TikToks became reels. That's what India could do best. But US is a different story. They're just trying to buy TikTok. Anyway, so that's going on. It's an ongoing development which is looking at sort of coming to its closure, but maybe not. Uh, Mr. Tiwari says, never thought of TikTok in this way as the rights proxy play. So not it, again, the best way to frame it would not be rights proxy play. It would be to say that it's a rights hedge against Meta, because these people have been very clear with their allegiance, right? Now, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg might cozy with Trump, but and everybody knows what guy that is, right? So you have Facebook on one side and Twitter on the other side, but Twitter's user base is pretty thin. It's not as big as Meta, right? So you need to have some counterweight here. So that is, so remember, you heard it here first. Moving on. GST cut call takes wind out of sales. Decade low slump to be offset by surge. So auto companies, AC companies, and all sorts of companies, passenger vehicles, and so on and so forth. All these companies are looking at decade low sales. I mean, not decade low, all these companies, but at least car companies, two-wheelers, mopeds are at down low, two-wheelers are okay, so all the sales that is happening right now is happening at the B2B play because of something that we've discussed a lot. We've discussed about, what is that called? I'm missing that word. It's just a very important word. Why is this happening? Can anybody help me with that word? Deferred purchases, of course. So it's happening because of deferred purchases, right? And deferred purchases is not good news, man. It's not good news for the sector, because what happens with deferred purchases is that deferred purchases, says Mr. Singh, of course. The thing is, what happens, the problem with deferred purchases is that inventory loads up. Cost of keeping that inventory together is also pretty high. Then managing that rush is also pretty high, due to which the logistics basically gets scrambled, right? The logistics gets strained a lot. It becomes a very big problem to manage that flux as well. And that's exactly what's happening. So if you remember, yesterday we discussed how delivery partners verification was proving to be a problem. And they were catching these problems when delivery partners essentially stole money or something like that, right? Or they had some sexual harassment complaint or stuff like that. So a lot of problems happen as far as compressed logistical timelines are considered, which is exactly what has led to what has happened because of the deferred purchases timeline. But the government has tried its best, Navratra season is anyway when all the consumption happens in the festive play. So that's when it's going to begin. But at the moment, it's all looking very scary. The biggest, most scary part is, what if the deferred purchases don't really happen, right? So everybody's talking about deferred purchases, right? That something is gonna happen. People are essentially gonna buy it all together. As soon as that particular thing, the GST plays out in 22nd September, it's gonna rush. Customers are gonna come, rush through the doors, buy everything. What if nothing like that happens, right? I mean, you can't discount its probability, right? Altogether. Yeah, I know it's not very probable, but what if it happens? What if they see, oh shit, sales are lackadaisical? What then? Very scary to think about, right? But possible. Speaking of these possibilities, gold is up. We talked about gold, right? We talked about how gold essentially went up, and it just kept going up from a year perspective, from a 3 years perspective, from a 5-year perspective, from a 10-year perspective, from a 20 years perspective. From 20 years it was okay, but 5, 3, 10 year and 1 year, gold just surpassed everything, right? It really surpassed everything. That is up, which has led to gold loans rising up yet again. We've talked about how Muthoot Finance gold loan thing had gotten like a 1 lakh crore or a 2 lakh crore loan book, AUM, right? That is up. And now it's going bottom of the pyramid. So people are finding out that when you take a gold loan, it's like 10 to 15%. But when you take a loan from an MFI route, it's 20%. So why go MFI, right? MFI is microfinance institution. Why go MFI? And also MFIs have essentially been very scared of delinquencies, right? And they're screwed. And they say that they have had a norm which says you can't lend to more than one active loan holder, right? Let's say one or two active loan holders just say, sorry sir, you can't get a loan, right? So these people trying to hedge their bets because delinquencies, if they happen, they screw everybody. But all those people are not going as far as gold loans are considered, which is great. They're being able to get cheap loans, and the banks have no problem as far as in cashing gold loans, right? Because gold loans don't default, right? Even if the loan defaults, the collateral essentially pays for itself, right? So gold loans are very, very happening for a lot of people. Speaking of gold, we've talked about Nayara, the Rosneft and Reliance company. Rosneft is 49%, Reliance is 51%. So it's not been able to sell outside because we've discussed about how they were trying to do dark fleets. They were sending dark fleets on ships to be able to navigate through these tough sanction situations, right? But they're not being able to sell outside, and they've gotten seriously hampered by all the sanctions by Europe, US, and so on and so forth. So what are they thinking of doing? Is they're thinking of selling to the OMCs. OMCs is all my oil marketing companies like IOCL, like BPCL, HPCL, and so on and so forth, right? And at a discount of a couple of dollars. So $1 or $2 discount, and they're trying to sell their exports to the home market. Now, this is great news, folks. This is great news. This could be either great news for the OMCs, okay, or it could be great news for people of India. How? Because if OMCs get cheaper fuel, right, a clearly discounted fuel, and if they can get that, the two things are going to happen. Their margins are going to be nice and fat, right? They're going to be making a lot of money, or they would be advised by the government to give some sort of discounts to people. Now, because the government is trying its best, right, to spur up consumption, and the best way to spur up consumption, what is the best way to tame inflation? What is the best way to spur up consumption? Can anybody guess? What is the best way to spur up consumption? I'll wait for 5 seconds. Okay, so there's a lag as far as YouTube is concerned. Sorry for the prolonged wait. But the best way to spur up consumption is cheap transport. Mr. Tiwari, you're right. And cheap transport means cheap fuel, right? That's what MAGA's strategy was. Cheap transport, Mr. Singh, you're right. That was MAGA's strategy, right? Drill, baby, drill, frack, and all of that US politics play. What they said was drill and get the oil right. Because if you get the oil right, you get the energy prices low. If energy prices go low, transport becomes cheaper. If transport becomes cheaper, logistics become cheaper. If logistics become cheaper, everything becomes cheaper, right? So the best way to spur up consumption to drive inflation low is bringing down the energy costs, right? And if if Nayara essentially sells to the oil marketing companies at a discount, and then these oil marketing companies are forced to pass some of that to users, it's just gonna be amazing for Indians. So let's see if that happens. Speaking of energy and transportation, Mercedes chief name is Ola. What is his name, man? His Ola Kalanius. So Ola Kalanius says that India doesn't need protectionist duty walls anymore. What he says is that India has serious duties for international companies, right? Car companies. And India has a very developed automobile industry now. India has been doing so well. India has a robust, like economy with a 4.34 million cars selling every year. They don't need to have tariffs. Now, why is he saying that? He's singing Mr. Trump's tune, right? That's what Mr. Trump says. That Harleys are not being able to sell in India because they have like a 200% duty, right? So that's very bad. So what they want is some sort of duty as far as the top tier end of the spectrum is considered, because that way they'll be able to sell more, and that's probably a green field for the Indian automobile market is considered, because we are not into luxury, right? So he says that we sell 20,000 cars in India. Now India is a country of 1.2 billion, 1.4 billion, I forget, and we only sell 20,000 cars. Sweden, by the way, is also a market. Sweden's population must be like less than 100 million, and we sell 20,000 cars there as well. So I'm not saying that Sweden needs to sell less cars. I'm saying India needs to sell more luxury cars. And how can they sell that? By, cutting the duties, because, and it's going to be good for the market. So he's basically singing his tune. The good thing is that India sells 20,000 luxury Mercedes cars, and Sweden also sells 20,000. I just need to check Sweden's population. My God, Sweden population is 1 crore. 1 crore is 100 million exactly. So we are at 140 crores. Sweden is 1 crore, but they're being able to buy 20,000 Mercedes, right? No duties, that's what he says. Moving on. Novo Holding is buying Surya Hospitals. Surya is a Maharashtrian hospital chain working in the west and north. They are getting acquired at 1,000 crores approximately, and they had a revenue of something around 170 crores. So a hospital chain is getting a revenue multiple of 7, which is pretty healthy. There's a lot of deal action happening as far as hospitals are considered. We've talked about this. Sayadri hospitals got acquired. Then there was Apollo, Fortis. All of these are looking at a lot of deals, and so on and so forth. Novo Holdings is Novo Nordisk's holding investment company. $170 billion, 170 pound or 170 euro. It's huge, right? So they are buying Surya Hospitals. Nice. Moving on. Macquarie is buying Indian highway assets. A lot of action, private equity action happening as far as the highway play is considered. Tolls. We recently discovered TOTs was bought by Adani, right? Now this particular play is gonna generate 1,500 crore of. It's being bought for 10,000 crores, and it's gonna be making like 1,200 crores or something as far as toll income is considered. So a lot of action happening as far as the whole toll play is considered, which is heavy. What does it indicate? Are private equities, really seeing a lot of action as far as the tolling play is considered, the highway play? If that, this means that India is going to be looking at a lot of movement, which essentially indicates ongoing investments in logistics and also warehousing, because the next step in transportation is warehousing, right? And we've talked about that. Mr. Gadkari has said that right now India spends about 10% of its GDP on logistics, on transportation. We're going to bring it down to 9%, and then we want to bring it down to 6%. Every percentage point reduced as far as transportation spend is considered for a country signals more efficiency, signals speed, signals activity, signals movement. So that's what's happening. If this is taking place, a lot of private equity action in here, it means good news, right? Megha is building a 5,700 crore oil reserve in Karnataka. A news of capex, private capex is always very, very important. But unfortunately, all the private capex that is happening right now in the country is going towards the power and refinery play. Not cool, right? Isn't it counterintuitive? Isn't less less spend on transport play? No, it is not counterintuitive, Mr. Singh. So less spend on transport means that the roads are good, that you're not having to spend too much uh, on just moving things. Your fuel expense low, you know. Then it also means that time is money. So it's not just money. If you're spending less money, if things are becoming more efficient, things are also becoming more quick. So as a matter of principle, if you keep the GDP intact and you spend less money on transporting things, right, by somehow making transportation more uh, streamlined, right, it means great action. It means great action for economy. Moving on, some political chit chat, which we best not discuss. Indian political discussions are so shitty, man. It's just so horrible. And you would think that, oh, it's because these politicians and so on and so forth. Even if you listen to intellectuals, so called intellectuals, the blue bloods, the aristocrats, right? The Arundhati Roys of the world. And then you listen to them for 5 minutes and, like, this is shit, man. What is she talking about? Right? So Indian political discussions are just best ignored. The best thing we do here is that we don't talk about politics at all. We only talk about numbers, which helps, which is simpler. Because you know what? When it comes to politics, and this happens in the business world as well, uh, there is something called a two movie on one screen phenomena, right? Two movies on one screen. So you're looking at an event, just the same event, right? And there is two readings of the situation, like Rashomon effect. We've discussed Rashomon effect, right? Viewers of Thinker's Frequency, do you remember? We talked about that Japanese movie, 1950. Kurosawa, Mr. Kurosawa directed that movie, Legend. In that movie, there were perspectives. So it's just two movies on one screen as far as political discussions are considered. You best not get into that play, man. It's very hard. It's much, much harder than business. Moving on. Speaking of business, Kashmiri fruit vendors have shut work because a highway has not been repaired, which has led to hundreds of crores of losses, they say. Sad. Moving on. Got it. Less spend without impacting the volume, keeping volume of goods same, efficiency. Thanks. Yeah. No problem. Moving on. Car sales skid for fourth month. We've talked about that. F&B sector spices up retail leasing biz. So F&B is really helping the retail leasing projects, right? So if you look at the numbers, the sector is growing, led by domestic brands with 86% of leasing, with international brands having 14% share. I'm talking about food and beverages, right? By 2028, 6 million square feet of fresh F&B space is expected to come up, absorbed across the top 7 cities. If you're talking about percentages, we are witnessing a paradigm shift where developers are planning to dedicate up to 25% of space in upcoming destination malls to F&B. 25% to F&B. It's huge. It means a lot. It's changing, right? Everything is changing as far as this play is considered. Delhi NCR holding 26%. So I read the biography of the founder of Light Bite Foods, the Dabur Scion. He's Mr. Berman. So Light Bite Foods is a chain of restaurants, right? He said that malls are very unpredictable for F&B because, very interestingly, he said malls are seasonal, right? Malls are really unpredictable as far as footfalls are considered. What leads to footfall at malls is cinema. So let's say a mall has like a cinema hall at the top, right? At the terrace. At the top floor. Now that is what drives most of the footfall, because a movie becomes a reason for people to go to the mall. And while they're going to the mall, they watch the movie. Just below the mall is the food court, right? and that leads to a lot of traffic and a lot of sales for the food guys. However, that is not very predictable, because a movie can be a dud, right? And the movie industry is really struggling these days. So he says that a big way for F&B players to survive then becomes something like an airport play, because prices are good and airport play has some sort of perennial traffic. Malls can be empty, but airport isn't empty. But these guys are talking about retail leasing going to food as if it's the draw for the mall. Very surprising, but very interesting. So that's what we do here, right? Moving on. Consumers stay high on sugar based products. They say while despite FMCG claims of reducing sugar in their products, Indians are gorging on sugar-based products, as per a latest study by Indian Sugar and Bioenergy Manufacturers Association. They say Indians are full of sugar, and that's true. That shouldn't be surprising to anybody. All the talk about less sugar and more healthy food, it's a very niche market. I've always said, I've had my own experience of building a health food company, Spot Health, so I know firsthand that all the talk about healthy food and health, as a domain, healthy beverages and so on and so forth, it's very, very niche, right? So these people have confirmed. Institutional consumption has risen 10% from 55% of total sugar to 65% in FY24. So that's what's happening. A good book, if you want to read, as far as FMCG's obsession with sugar is considered, or salt, sugar, and fat. The book is called Salt, Sugar, and Fat. So the book is called Salt, Sugar, and Fat, and it says why FMCG companies just keep loading their products with a lot of salt, a lot of sugar, and a lot of fat, because that's what makes the food addictive. By the way, in a related news, in America, people have really, businesses have been forced to change their ways. So Tyson is another company which has stopped using corn syrup, right? Corn-based sugar syrup in its fast food products. So America is really changing. The Make America Healthy movement, right? It's Coca-Cola started using sugar cane juice. Cane sugar for it as a syrup instead of using the sugar syrup that they use, and a lot of things, right? So they are really moving away from salt, sugar, and fat because the political dispensation is ordering them. Once again, it proves one of the very important things that we keep talking about, that most business outcomes are products of political will, right? Products of political will. Moving on. Let's say if there was a democratic administration, they would have just banned TikTok, right? If they would have done that. Or let's say India had a different country and they wouldn't have banned TikTok. ShareChat wouldn't have gotten any money, right? They would have been acquired. They could have been acquired by TikTok. But they got billions of dollars. Why? Because the government one day woke up and said, we're going to ban TikTok, right? And then the business became huge. And when the business became huge, the entrepreneur said, oh, we worked and made it huge. But essentially, it was forces beyond your control, right? Political will. Goods exports rise while imports dip, narrowing deficit in August. So goods exports have been up despite the tariff troubles. Mr. Patil says, with all sugar factories owned by politicians, there'll never be an anti-sugar movement in India. Well, they are trying. But you haven't. So all the sugar factories, they could be used for ethanol. Right? Don't you think? Anyway, so the goods exports rise while imports dip, narrowing deficit in August. Despite US tariff situation, right? They are essentially talking that it's just declined 7%. And a lot of moves that the government took, that was absorbing a lot of exports which were going out in the country, then diversifying the exports, hedging against concentration of markets, GST, and so on and so forth. They're saying that we are still holding strong. And the narrative is that it's Indian exporters have held tremendously well, actually, surprisingly well considering everything. And that's amazing, right? And imports have been low, so the deficit has been good, which means good, healthy cash situation for the government, right? Exports to US grow at 9-month low of 7.2 after the tariff blow. So not really a bad news per se. While this is happening, Mr. Chandrababa Naidu is talking about uh, having some sort of cold storage play, some sort of SOPs incentives for the shrimp producers, because that particular play has gotten really screwed, right? So that's going on, and some numbers if you want. So I'm just gonna be very very succinct. Yeah. In the first 5 months of FY26, merchandise exports rose 2.5 to 184 billion, while imports increased 2.1 to 306 billion. So again, we are a deficit country. We don't export as much as we import. 306,000 billion of imports and 184 billion dollars worth exports. Export growth was driven by engineering goods, electronics, pharmaceuticals, and chemicals. Gold imports fell 57%. So, US remained India's top export hub, with merchandise exports rising to 40 billion in April to August, from 34% to 34 billion earlier. Yeah. Sequential basis, exports fell 5%, 7%, while imports dropped 4.6%. So those were some numbers. Mr. Gadkari, in the meantime, is saying roadmap to make India global hub for auto production. He says, I'm going to make India the global hub for auto production. And he says, he's always been saying that in 5 years or by 2030, number one position within the next 5 years, which is like crazy to me, because India's automotive market cannot beat China or let's say US in just 5 years. That sounds hilarious, but he's been saying that. And what he's saying is that, very interestingly, that instead of just the domestic market, Indian automobile companies will be looking at export markets. So he says, a very interesting number he threw. Mr. Gadkari emphasized that India's two-wheeler sector alone exports more than 50% of its production. So he says that India automobile sector is already doing wonders as far as production is considered. Exports are considered. Two-wheelers are already at 50%. Four-wheelers have the scope, and we will soon be number one. He says we have already started piloting hydrogen trucks, and which is great, right? Isobutanol and biobutamin are currently underway. We aim to rescue India's massive fuel import of 22 lakh crores. So that's what he keeps saying, and he's right. You've got to give him credit. He's been very single-minded as far as curtailing India's fuel imports are considered. So he's been talking heavily about curtailing India's fuel imports. He's been saying that India imports like 22 lakh crore worth of fuel, right? You got to bring it down, man. How do you bring it down? Replacement fuels. Go with ethanol. Go with hydrogen. Go with anything. Just don't import fuel, which is nice, right? Biobutamin, he says, is made from rice straw, which has shown better performance than petroleum-based butamin, helps reduce stubble burning. So again, a very nicely pitched thing. Stubble burning is, of course, the most important thing. It's going to be the most important thing in a month from now. So right now we are sitting at 16th September. From 20th, 25th October, we're going to hear Delhi pollution woos, right? And then we're going to be talking about stubble burning, paddy burning, because that's what we do. Delhi is a shithole, and India is just very good at managing shitholes by burying the news, right? He just buries the news. And but again, the news comes up. Every monsoon, we just drown. Every winter, we choke. But that's what happens. So he's saying that could be solved by using biobutamin, because it comes from rice straw and it reduces stubble burning. And he also says that we have used a very big 80 lakh tons of waste, into wealth, sustainable infrastructure creation. It says we've reduced the Ghazipur mountain of, it's a shit mountain. It's basically a dump, Ghazipur dump. I don't know if you know about it, but there's a landfill in Delhi which looks like a mountain. So it's a 70-acre landfill which really looks like a mountain. So when I was going on a bike trip to Chandratal, right, Leh Ladakh Spiti area, so I saw like a mountain like thing in Delhi itself, and I like mountain in Delhi, and then I realized it was just a landfill. So it's so much of waste collected together that it looks like a mountain. So he's saying that we've converted 80 lakh tons of waste from Ghazipur landfill. We've reduced the height of the mountain by 7 meters already. So that's okay. Unemployment rate falls to 4-month low. That's okay. We've talked a lot about that. So AI push can add 600 billion to GDP by 2035. And what do I say about predictions or projections of 10 years in the future? Right? 10 years in the future, what do you think about future projections, and that too of 10 years, right? Let's say if somebody publishes a report, says AI push can add 600 billion to GDP by 2035. It's BS, right? So Niti Aayog has come out with fresh BS. They're saying financial services manufacturers seeing a top AI-led growth engine. They've come up with the reports. Now just imagine, man, these people get money for writing these reports. How nice is their job, right? They sit in their office, switch on the AC, okay, and just cook up numbers, man. Like they pick up an Excel cell and they just drag it, and the numbers compound, and they're like, this is my report, right? Just imagine the job, man. It's so nice. Anyway, railway stocks have been going up. Capex push. Some capex pushes happening as far as the railways play is considered. 77,000 crore capex announcement coupled with the inauguration of Bairabi Sairang railway line in Mizoram, and projects worth 8,500 crores. So all the stocks, Railtel, RVNL, Titagarh, they grew up a little. They've been very bad for a year and a half. I think they've like all gone down by 50%. So they'll essentially need to double to come back where they were. Looks difficult, but they say that some railway stocks expected to gain up to 25% in near term, but analysts caution investors to stay selective given high valuations. High valuation despite going 50%. So if you look at RVNL, it's down 50% from its peak. If you look at Titagarh, it's down 50% from its peak, right? Even then, they say the valuations are steep. We've talked about gold loans. Hero Motors, Pine Labs, and Canada are amongst the companies which are looking at IPO. Yeah. That's interesting. Moving on. Banks remain wary of NBFCs despite lower risk weights. Lending sector grew just 2.6% in 5 months to July, as against 12.7% a year ago. So just imagine, man, we've been talking about this for 100 days now. 110 days. We said how banking is gonna be a tough play, and how banking is only gonna flip during this particular festive season and so on and so forth. The bank stocks will be under stress, and everything has basically come exactly as we said it would, right? But these are July numbers, so these are old reports, but very, very collinear to what they say. So July, August, right? August is when it starts changing. So when you look at September, as soon as September reports come, you're gonna see banks coming up with good news. That's what I say. So let's see what happens. Loan demand to boost bank credit growth in H2 of FY26. That's exactly as our prediction is considered. Investor interest in stressed green power asset grows. There is light. Lenders' recoveries were almost double the base price in Regen and Windworld loan sales, with investors plugging into renewables. So a lot of PE action has happening as far as renewables are considered. And not just the bad, loans. It's just new, fresh things under construction, underutilized assets getting sold to PE firms. It's very interesting. Statkraft, Norway's company we just discussed. India is moving towards a renewable energy target and has committed to achieving net zero by 2070. What do you think about a 40-year projection, guys? No, not sorry, 40 years. It's 45 year. So what do you think about a 45-year projection? Isn't it fun to have like a 45-year-old projection, right? It's so nice. And if you believe this projection, Mr. Patil says 4x BS. It's like 7 crore, that kind of BS, man. I have a bridge to sell you. Like, I have a bridge. We are making a bridge right above Taj Mahal, right? So if the bridge is gonna go over Taj Mahal, right? And I am selling it to you for like 5 crores, okay? So please let me know. DM me if you want to buy that. But a lot of PE action has happening as far as that play is considered, right? Moving on. I hope I'm not missing out on anything. No, I'm not. Two-wheelers. We've talked about two-wheelers doing. The drop was 25%. We've talked about this. Moving on. Wholesale inflation. I'll buy with my EMI of 50 years. Come on, man. Come on, Mr. Patil. Don't be like that. Just share your 5 crores already, right? Or, we could do a deal like Mr. Larry Ellison did with OpenAI, right? He didn't, OpenAI didn't have $300 billion. Mr. Larry Ellison didn't have any GPU or let's say cloud facility. So what he did was they announced an order. Oracle stock went up. Now they'll have money to have those cloud facilities. That stock went up. OpenAI also became more valuable. They'll have more money to buy that. No, Oracle, with the stock, they are also investing in OpenAI so that they could going to be a circular deal. We could do that kind of a deal. But never pay me by EMIs, right? I want cash in full. Wholesale inflation hits 0.5%, highest in 4 months. So wholesale inflation was essentially negative. India was going negative as far as WPI was considered, right? Wholesale price index, it was going negative. We were facing deflation. So if you remember, we talked about this. We said the WPI was in July, it was minus 2.2, right? It was minus 2.2, which was really negative. From that, it has come up, which is good. So this particular inflation will be healthy. We've talked about how deflation is not healthy for the economy, right? So everybody's like, hey, deflation should be good, man. If things become like cheaper, it should be just good news all the way, right? No, it's not, because somebody is selling those things, right? And it's not good news for those. So if the price starts going negative, if the price is static, or if the price is, let's say, a very good, very benign growth rate, it's like a 1-2% kind of a thing, that's good. That's good for everybody, right? But if the price starts crashing down, that is not good news, contrary to the popular perception. Morgan Stanley sees food weight decline in CPI. So they are saying that the weight of food items in consumer price basket will decline by around 8% points from 45.8% currently in the new inflation series. So Morgan Stanley says that food's weight will come down, in the index, because other things are going to take its place. As per Morgan Stanley, the reduction in food's component share would further reduce upward pressure to headline CPI numbers, as uptick coming in T2 is likely to be led by a normalizing base in food prices. So that's okay. SC is hearing a Vodafone Idea plea against the AGR demand. So DOT had given a demand, an AGR demand, and SC had already, that is Supreme Court had already said, a 2019 ruling, but these people had like a retrospective 2017 kind of a play. So Vodafone is going to court and saying, sir, we can't pay, sir. Sir, we can't pay. Sir, if we pay, we're going to get ruined, sir. What do we do then? What are you going to do then, sir? The government owns 49% of us, sir. The taxpayer is going to lose, sir. But at the moment, lawyers are going to make money. Moving on. Growing logistics strain dampens e-commerce festive season sales vibe. Capacity additions in warehousing delivery not keeping pace with expected demand spike. Right? This year's festive season's expected to have a GMV of 1.2 lakh crores. 1.2 lakh crores is uh, 1 lakh crores is essentially 12 to 14 billion dollars, I guess. 12 billion dollars. 1.2 lakh crores is roughly 15 billion dollars, right? 15 billion dollars is the expected GMV in this festive season. This is up from 94,000 crores last year. So, delivery slots, everything. So as I said, shrinking timeline is never a good news, because how much capacity can you raise for a very small period of time? It's just going to lead to a lot of strain, right? And what happens when that capacity gets old? What do you do then? It's just bad news. But it's what we deal with right now. So let's see. Categories like fashion, electronics are showing growth momentum, setting the tone for the period. Moving on. Applied Materials looking to link up with semiconductor mission companies. US equipment chip major eyes inroads as India doubles down on semiconductor mission. We've talked a lot about this, so let's move on. Banning hit game companies fire 2,000 people, setting off a scramble for jobs. Well, this is obviously not surprising to us. Gaming companies were going to fire people. A lot of people said that these gaming companies are going to start making games, right? Real games, not the betting play, but the real e-sport kind of, or like a mobile game. I said, you remember what I said, folks? Do you remember? Now, there were two predictions. That number one, most of the legal betting is gonna go illegal, right? Number two, that these gaming companies, these betting companies are going to pivot and become real gaming companies. And I had said to you, remember, that none of these two things are gonna happen. You remember that? None of these two things are gonna happen. You're not gonna see gaming companies mushrooming out of these betting companies, because betting and gaming are fundamentally different. They have a DNA difference, right? A gaming company is supposed to be very creative. They're supposed to be extremely creative, very high technologically. And a betting company needs to be very good at managing money and rotating money, right? That's the core competence of a betting company, that how it's basically managing the flow of money, how it's managing float, how it's managing payouts and so on. So it's a very evolved finance operation. A gaming company is a creative operation. So wish as you may that these companies would suddenly become like a Rovio or a Niantic. They won't, right? So I said that they won't. These people have been firing people left, right and center. And I also said that most of that legal gaming will not go into illegal gaming, because that's not how it happens. Illegal betting has a serious amount of friction, which 90% of people would not be willing to endure, right? So two predictions, it was us against them, and we are winning. Mr. Singh writes, can these RMG companies expand to different markets outside India where betting is legal? I heard MPL is doing that. Yeah, so that they can do. That they'll try to do, right? But it's harder than it seems like. Obviously, it's difficult, right? An alien market. But that they can do, and they will do. So 5,000 to 6,000 employees may be affected. Top 7 RMG firms employ about 6,000 people. And people also said that these people employ lakhs of people. And I said, no, they don't. Who told you that they employ lakhs of people? That's just a bullshit propaganda, right? These people never employed people. How many people do you actually need to run a gaming company, right? A betting operation, not many. A legal betting operation can be run by a very small team, a very small tech team, a good amount of support people, but that's it, right? So not a lot of people, very few number of people managing an incredible amount of money, right? 1 lakh crore. So that was going on. So 5 to 6,000 people are going to be laid off. Moving on. Musk buys Tesla share worth $1 billion, stock jumps 8%. So Mr. Musk is essentially looking at, he has a $1 trillion package, and that $1 trillion pay package is contingent on the fact that Tesla should be a $20 trillion company. So he'll get $1 trillion. He is buying stakes in Tesla. He had threatened people that, hey, if you don't give me that package, I'll build AI outside Tesla and then you're going to be screwed, man. So people said, no, no, sir, please. So he's accumulating stock, and that's a big news because Tesla stock has hit 420. And you know what he joked? What he said? Promises made, promises fulfilled. We said that the stock of Tesla will go from 69 to 420. Now, this is a joke. 69 is a sexual position, and 420 alludes to that marijuana community time. 420, that's a marijuana thing, right? So he wrote that joke that our company stock price will go from 69 to 420. It has happened. So the guy has got a sense of humor. Moving on. Alphabet is worth 3 trillion. Its market cap. Fourth company to do that. Number 1 is Nvidia. Number 2 is what is that? Nvidia, Microsoft, and the third company I have Apple, and then Google, right? So fourth company. Google's business model, however, is in deep threat. I don't know why these people are latching on to Google stock. It's unbelievable because Google is, Google is still making all its money. 80% of its revenues, 80% of its profits are still coming from the search engine play, right? Advertising play. And search engine as a business model is getting devastated by AI. So maybe whatever they're losing as far as the search engine business is considered or the prospects of it is getting offset by whatever they're making in the AI play is considered. So these two things are balancing it. But Google AI doesn't make that money, right? So their cash center is basically subsidizing their profit loss center, cost center. So let's see how long can Google survive. I have serious doubts. Moving on. Presumptive rules tax heat on content creators, consultants. Well, screw consultants and content creators. Moving on. Great Indic data hunt. So India is racing to build Indic models. Indic models basically Indian large language models, right? So Sarvam AI 120 billion parameters they launched to very bad response. Gun AI 70 billion parameter model. Socket 120 billion parameter model. Gnani.ai voice model 14 billion parameters. So they are essentially looking at a lot of action as far as that play is considered. But I have been thinking and I've been seeing that it's too little, right? Whatever India's foundational model is considered, it's too little as far as adoption play is considered. So the government needs to step in and make sure that these things are adopted. So they need to, let's say, buy a subscription for all government employees of these players, because we are losing out on this paradigm as well. We lost out on internet. We couldn't make any internet company because all of our companies were essentially in the information IT services play. We didn't get anything as far as post internet play was considered. The app thing, we couldn't really do anything, right? This is the next frontier and might just be the final frontier, right? We are really losing our ground, providing a ground on the platter to all these foreign companies. And if something doesn't happen, we'll just be another data harvesting tool for all the companies from the West, right? So there needs to be some sort of, let's say, protectionism there. Why should I be politically correct, right? We need some protectionism as far as adoption of this tech is considered. We need our own AI. Semiconductor mission is great, AI mission is great, but that needs more on the demand side. So problem is the demand side. Supply side, they'll do what they do, but the demand side needs to be protected. Like China did, when it stopped internet companies from building in China. So China could make all that tech, develop all that tech intelligence because it had the opportunity to make its own Google, its own YouTube, and so on and so forth, right? We need all those things to protect to create our industry, I believe. Well, that's just my opinion, man. as the dude would say, right? That's just like my opinion, man. With that, we come to the end of the 14th episode. Sorry, 14th episode of Thinker's Frequency. Uh, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. It's 9:09. We should punch in anytime soon. I should thank Mr. Yogendra Pratap Singh, Mr. Patil, Mr. Kumar. Thank you so much for all the for all the labeling. You know, I really thankful. We're at 30 episodes, right? It's just extraordinary. You've done how many episodes have you done? It's just incredible, right? 80 episodes. Thank you so much. A lot of people will benefit. Mr. Tiwari, and everybody else who joined. So, thank you so much. I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. Bye bye.